The Super Bowl is just 9 days away, and as always, people are just as excited about the commercials as they are for the game. But this season, NFL TV viewership tumbled 9.7% from a year ago. Advertising spending declined as well. Altogether, companies spent $2.42 billion on in-game NFL commercials in 2017, down 1.2% from last season. And the stakes are high for Super Bowl broadcaster NBC. The average cost of a 30-second Super Bowl spot is more than $5 million. The network expects to generate, get this, $500 million in ad revenue for this one game. Join us now are Chad Cascadden, a former linebacker for the New York Jets and current in-studio analyst for SNY, and Patrick Rishe, the program director of sports business at Washington University and CEO of Sports Impacts. Chad, to me, ratings are down, but I think big games seem to be down. So last year you had one game that was rated over a 15. It was the Steelers and the Patriots. The year before it was 3 games. It was all involved the Cowboys.
Yep.
The year before it was 13 games. Did it hurt this year? Because it seems like when you still have a big game matchup, they're going to make $500 million in the Super Bowl. That's ridiculous. That you had New York, the Cowboys, both struggling mightily. Aaron Rodgers breaks a collarbone. You don't have marquee matchups. Is that one of the biggest factors right now in NFL ratings decline?
It's probably part of it. I also think that people are watching the game differently. They're watching it on the phone, they're watching on their tablet, and probably recording some of these games. And so I don't think you might see viewership down, but on these big games, on these playoff games, again, people come to watch, and they're going to want to see Tom Brady in this game, and I think you're going to also see a lot of people rooting for the Eagles because I think people are getting tired of Tom Brady.
People hate excellence. You know, I've always been a Dallas Cowboy fan, which means I hate football, and I don't get to watch it in January since about 2000. But people just love rooting against the best team. You mentioned viewership, how they watch now. Red Zone is not factored in. A lot of people, because of fantasy football, are watching Red Zone, and that's not factored into TV ratings.
I'll tell you what, if the audience hasn't seen Red Zone, go check it out. I'm not plugging anything, but the Red Zone's great because it pops you around the league to all these different games when it's about to score, and it just keeps the energy level up when sometimes games will drag a little bit if they're not in a big market or a big team.
Patrick, the trend seems worrisome. Now, they go from $2.45 billion to $2.42 billion. They're still the most profitable league in the world today. But it was up 13% a couple of years ago. It was up only 3% last year. It's down 1.2% this year. Is that trend worrisome to the NFL? You still had 33 of the top 50 games last year were NFL football games. But the big dog is being knocked a little bit off that mountain. Is that worrisome?
It's not worrisome to me. You know, we mentioned earlier that you have a change in viewing habits. And also, if you compare the decline that you see with NFL ratings compared to the decline that you're seeing in all other non-sports ratings are even larger. So that just emphasizes the point that most of this decline is based on how we are consuming these events. One thing to watch out for this year, going back to advertising and spending, is social media is playing more and more of a role of how these companies are getting their brand name out there. So watch these companies and how they're taking advantage of social media, both before the game and also on the night of the game and afterward.
Well, what Chad mentioned a second ago about people rooting against Tom Brady just simply because he's been the best in the world and he's married to a supermodel, so every male should hate him. I believe it's required. But the NFL, I don't believe in any conspiracy theories about games being fixed or referees doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. But the NFL wanted Brady to be in the Super Bowl, right? It's like having Roger Federer in the Aussie Open tomorrow. I mean, you want the premier guy in the premier game. That's what makes it a $500 million game.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what would have happened to secondary ticket prices if Jacksonville had been there. I tell you, I mean, New England versus Philadelphia, a great matchup. But if Jacksonville had been there, obviously the ratings probably would have come down a tick. But the secondary prices, I think, would have been even much lower. Right now, the secondary prices are a record high, currently at $5,600. The highest prior Super Bowl, the average secondary price was about $4,600. So part of that's because Vikings fans were hoping that the Vikings were going to make it to the U.S. Bank for a home game for Super Bowl 52, but unfortunately that did not happen.
Chad, we got to go. You're the expert. Who wins the game?
Until they knock them off the top of the heap, it's New England. Belichick's the greatest halftime adjuster on the planet. It's New England.
Yeah, the fourth quarter comeback's been awesome. 3 of 70. Teams been down 10 points in the fourth quarter. All 3 have been Tom Brady and the New England Patriots in the playoffs.